Hello everyone. Today, we are going to begin an important topic in machine learning and data analytics, regression analysis. This is one of the most fundamental and widely used techniques when it comes to understanding data and making predictions. If you think about many real-world problems, they often involve predicting a numerical value. For example, estimating the price of a house, forecasting sales for a business, predicting temperature changes, or even analyzing trends in stock markets. All these problems have one thing in common: we are trying to predict a continuous value. And that is exactly where regression comes into play. In this lecture, we will not just learn what regression is, but also understand how it works, why it is useful, and how it is applied in real-world scenarios. We will explore different types of regression, starting from simple linear regression to more advanced forms, and also discuss how to evaluate the performance of a regression model. By the end of this session, you should be able to clearly understand the concept of regression, interpret its results, and connect it to practical applications. So let's begin our journey into regression analysis. Now let's take a look at the learning objectives for today's session, so you have a clear idea of what you are expected to understand by the end of this lecture. By the end of this topic, you should be able to clearly define what regression is and explain its purpose in data analysis and machine learning. It's important not just to memorize the definition, but to truly understand why regression is used and in what kind of problems it becomes relevant. You should also be able to distinguish between different types of regression, especially simple linear regression and multiple linear regression. Understanding the difference between these will help you choose the right approach when solving real-world problems. Another key objective is to understand how a regression model actually works, specifically, how the relationship between variables is represented mathematically, and how the model tries to fit the best possible line to the data. In addition to this, you should be able to interpret the results of a regression model. This includes understanding concepts like error, residuals, and how we evaluate whether a model is good or not using performance metrics. Finally, you should be able to connect regression concepts to real-life applications, so that you can see how these techniques are used in areas like business, healthcare, and engineering. So, keep these objectives in mind as we move forward, because everything we discuss today will align with these learning goals. Now let's understand an important concept. What are predictive models? A predictive model is a mathematical or computational model that uses historical data to predict future outcomes. In simple terms, it learns patterns from past data and uses those patterns to make informed predictions about new or unseen data. Think of it like this: if we have data from the past, such as sales over the last 5 years, a predictive model analyzes that data to identify trends and relationships. Based on those patterns, it can estimate what the sales might look like in the future. Predictive models are widely used in many real-world applications. For example, in business, companies use predictive models to forecast demand, optimize pricing, and improve decision-making. In healthcare, predictive models can help estimate the likelihood of a disease or predict patient recovery time. In finance, they are used for credit scoring, risk assessment, and stock market predictions. Now, there are different types of predictive models depending on the type of output we want. If the output is a continuous value, like price or temperature, we use regression models. If the output is a category, like yes, no or spam, not spam, we use classification models. So, regression is actually a type of predictive modeling technique focused specifically on predicting numerical values. Another important point is that predictive models do not just memorize data, they generalize patterns. This means they should perform well not only on the data they were trained on but also on new data. This is why building a good predictive model involves not only learning patterns but also avoiding issues like overfitting. In summary, predictive models are powerful tools that transform raw data into meaningful predictions, enabling smarter decisions and better insights across various domains. Now let's move on to an important topic: types of predictive models. Predictive models can be broadly categorized based on the type of output they produce and the kind of problem they solve. Understanding these types is essential because choosing the correct model directly affects the accuracy and usefulness of predictions. The first major category is regression models. These models are used when the output variable is continuous, meaning it can take any numerical value. For example, predicting house prices, temperature, or sales revenue. In regression, we try to establish a relationship between input variables and a continuous output. Linear regression is the simplest and most commonly used example in this category. The second category is classification models. Here, the output is categorical rather than numerical. For example, predicting whether an email is spam or not, whether a patient has a disease or not, or whether a transaction is fraudulent or legitimate. Even though the techniques may internally use mathematical functions similar to regression, the output is in discrete classes. A well-known example is logistic regression. Despite its name, it is actually used for classification tasks. The third category is clustering models. These are slightly different because they do not predict a predefined output. Instead, they group data into clusters based on similarity. For example, customer segmentation in marketing, grouping customers based on their purchasing behavior. Clustering is an example of unsupervised learning because there is no labeled output. Next, we have time series models. These models are used when data is collected over time and has a temporal order. For example, stock prices, weather data, or monthly sales. Time series models consider trends, seasonality, and patterns over time to make future predictions. Another important category is ensemble models. These models combine multiple individual models to improve prediction accuracy. Instead of relying on a single model, ensemble methods like random forest or boosting techniques use a collection of models to make better predictions. The idea is that a group of models can often perform better than a single model. Finally, we also have deep learning models, which are more advanced and used when dealing with large and complex datasets such as images, speech, or text. These models automatically learn features from data and are widely used in modern AI applications. So, to summarize, regression predicts numerical values. Classification predicts categories. Clustering groups data. Time series handles time-based data. Ensemble models improve accuracy. Deep learning handles complex data. Understanding these types helps you choose the right approach depending on the nature of the problem you are trying to solve. As we move forward, our main focus will be on regression models, which fall under predictive modeling for continuous outputs. Now let's move into one of the most important parts of today's session, the model workflow. When we talk about building a predictive model, many people assume that it is just about selecting an algorithm and running it on data. But in reality, it is a structured, step-by-step process, where each stage plays a critical role in determining how accurate and reliable the final model will be. Let's walk through this entire process in a smooth flow, as it actually happens in real-world scenarios. We begin with data collection. Every model starts with data. Without data, there is no learning. This data can come from different sources such as databases, sensors, business transactions, or even user-generated inputs. For example, if you are building a model to predict house prices, you would collect data like location, size, number of rooms, and past prices. The key point here is that the quality of data directly affects the quality of predictions. There is a common saying, garbage in, garbage out. If your data is inaccurate or incomplete, your model will not perform well. Once we have collected the data, the next step is data preprocessing. Raw data is rarely clean or ready to use. It may contain missing values, inconsistencies, or noise. So we need to clean it. This involves handling missing values, either by removing them or filling them appropriately, removing duplicate entries, correcting errors, and converting data into a consistent format. For instance, categorical data like yes and no may need to be converted into numerical values like 1 and 0. This step ensures that the dataset is structured and usable for modeling. After cleaning the data, we move to exploratory data analysis, or EDA. In this step, we try to understand the data deeply. We look at distributions, relationships between variables, trends, and patterns. We may use visualizations such as graphs, histograms, or scatter plots. For example, we might observe that as experience increases, salary tends to increase. These insights help us understand whether a linear model is suitable or if we need something more complex. EDA is like getting familiar with your data before making any decisions. Next comes feature selection and feature engineering. Not all variables in a dataset are useful. Some may have little or no impact on the output, while others may be very important. Feature selection helps us identify and keep only the most relevant variables. Feature engineering goes a step further. It involves creating new features from existing ones. For example, from a date column, we might extract the month or year as separate features. This step can significantly improve model performance because better features lead to better learning. Once the features are ready, we move on to splitting the dataset. we typically divide the data into two parts: training data and testing data. The training data is used to build the model, while the testing data is used to evaluate its performance. This is very important because we want to see how the model performs on new, unseen data, not just the data it was trained on. Without this step, we cannot judge whether the model is truly effective. Now comes the core step: model selection and training. Here, we choose an appropriate algorithm based on the problem. For regression tasks, we might choose linear regression or multiple regression. The model is then trained using the training dataset. During training, the model learns the relationship between inputs and outputs by adjusting its internal parameters. The goal is to minimize the error between predicted values and actual values. Once the model is trained, we proceed to model evaluation. We test the model using the testing dataset and calculate performance metrics such as mean squared error, root mean squared error, or R-squared. These metrics tell us how accurate the model is. A good model will have low error and high explanatory power. This step helps us decide whether the model is ready or needs improvement. If the performance is not satisfactory, we move to model tuning and improvement. This is an iterative process. We may adjust model parameters, try different features, or even select a different algorithm. Sometimes, small changes can lead to significant improvements. This step may be repeated multiple times until we achieve a model that performs well. Finally, once we are satisfied with the model, we move to deployment. This is where the model is actually used in a real-world application. For example, it could be integrated into a website, a mobile app, or a business system where it continuously makes predictions based on new data. But even after deployment, the process does not end. We need to monitor and maintain the model. Over time, data patterns may change. This is known as data drift. If the model is not updated, its performance may degrade. So we periodically retrain and update the model to keep it accurate. So, if we look at the entire workflow as a continuous process, it includes data collection, preprocessing, exploration, feature selection, data splitting, model training, evaluation, tuning, deployment, and monitoring. Each step builds on the previous one, and together they form a complete lifecycle of a predictive model. Understanding this workflow is extremely important because it reflects how machine learning is actually applied in real-world problems, beyond just theory or formulas. Now let's focus specifically on understanding what regression really means in a more intuitive and practical sense. At its core, regression is all about identifying relationships between variables and using those relationships to make predictions. In many real-world situations, we observe that one variable depends on another. For instance, the amount of rainfall may affect crop yield, the number of hours studied may affect exam performance, or the size of a house may influence its price. Regression helps us capture this dependency in a mathematical form. Let's think of a simple example. Suppose we collect data on students, specifically, how many hours they study and the marks they score. If we plot this data on a graph, we may notice a pattern. As study hours increase, marks also tend to increase. However, the data points will not lie perfectly on a straight line. There will always be some variation due to factors like difficulty level, individual ability, or external conditions. Now, instead of trying to perfectly match every data point, regression focuses on finding a line, or more generally, a function, that best represents the overall trend in the data. This line is what we call the regression line. The purpose of this line is not to pass through every point, but to minimize the overall difference between the predicted values and the actual values. This difference is known as the error or residual. So, regression is essentially a balance. It tries to create a model that is simple enough to understand, yet accurate enough to make reliable predictions. Another important idea here is that regression allows us not only to predict values but also to interpret relationships. For example, in a linear regression model, the slope tells us how much the output changes for a unit change in the input. This gives us meaningful insights, not just predictions. In summary, regression is a technique that transforms scattered data into a meaningful pattern, allowing us to both understand relationships and predict future outcomes based on those relationships. In any regression problem, there are mainly two types of variables involved: the dependent variable and the independent variables. Let's start with the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the one we are trying to predict. It is also called the output variable or the target variable. its value depends on other factors. For example, if we are predicting house prices, then the price of the house is the dependent variable. Similarly, if we are predicting student marks, then marks become the dependent variable. Now, let's talk about independent variables. Independent variables are the inputs or features that influence the dependent variable. These are the factors that we use to make predictions. For instance, in the house price example, independent variables could include size of the house, number of rooms, location, and age of the property. In the student example, independent variables could be study hours, attendance, and previous scores. So, in simple terms, independent variables are the causes or inputs. Dependent variable is the effect or output. Regression analysis tries to establish a relationship between these variables. Now, depending on the number of independent variables, regression can be categorized further. If there is only one independent variable, it is called simple regression. If there are multiple independent variables, it is called multiple regression. Another important point to understand is that independent variables should ideally be relevant and not redundant. If we include too many unnecessary variables, it may affect the performance of the model and lead to problems like overfitting. Also, the dependent variable in regression is always continuous, meaning it takes numerical values. This is what differentiates regression from classification. So, to summarize, dependent variable is what we predict. Independent variables are what we use to predict. Regression builds a relationship between them. Understanding these variables clearly is essential because everything in regression revolves around how these variables interact with each other. Now let's move to types of regression, which helps us understand that regression is not just a single technique, but a group of methods designed to handle different types of relationships in data. The first and most fundamental type is linear regression. In linear regression, we assume that the relationship between the input variables and the output variable is linear, meaning it can be represented using a straight line. This line shows how the dependent variable changes with respect to one or more independent variables. Linear regression is simple, easy to interpret, and forms the foundation for many advanced regression techniques. Next, we have polynomial regression. In many real-world cases, the relationship between variables is not perfectly linear. Instead of a straight line, the data may follow a curved pattern. Polynomial regression helps us model such relationships by including higher degree terms, such as squared or cubic terms of the input variables. This makes the model more flexible and capable of capturing more complex patterns. Then we have logistic regression. Even though the name includes the word regression, this technique is actually used for classification problems. It is applied when the output variable is categorical, such as yes, no or true, false. Logistic regression predicts probabilities and helps in decision-making situations like fraud detection or disease diagnosis. Another important category includes ridge regression and lasso regression. These are types of regularized regression techniques. They are particularly useful when we have many input variables or when the model is at risk of overfitting. Ridge regression works by shrinking the coefficients to reduce complexity, while lasso regression can shrink some coefficients completely to zero, effectively removing less important features from the model. So, to summarize, linear regression models straight-line relationships. Polynomial regression handles curved relationships. Logistic regression is used for classification tasks. Ridge and lasso regression help control model complexity and prevent overfitting. Understanding these different types helps us choose the right approach depending on the nature of the data and the problem we are trying to solve. Now let's look at linear regression in more detail, along with the key points mentioned on this slide. Linear regression is a technique used to determine the extent to which there is a linear relationship between a dependent variable and one or more independent variables. In simple terms, it helps us understand how strongly the input variables influence the output and how they are related through a straight-line relationship. The main objective of linear regression is not just prediction, but also understanding the relationship between variables. It tells us how changes in the independent variables impact the dependent variable. Now, based on the number of independent variables involved, linear regression can be classified into two types. The first is simple linear regression. In this case, there is only one independent variable and one dependent variable. We try to model the relationship between these two variables using a straight line. For example, predicting marks based only on study hours. It is simple, easy to visualize, and helps us understand the basic concept of regression. The second type is multiple linear regression. Here, we have more than one independent variable influencing the dependent variable. For example, predicting house prices based on size, location, number of rooms, and age of the property. This type of regression is more realistic because, in real-world situations, outcomes are usually affected by multiple factors. So essentially, simple linear regression deals with one input variable. Multiple linear regression deals with multiple input variables. Both of these fall under the broader concept of linear regression, where the relationship between variables is assumed to be linear. Understanding these types is important because it helps us choose the appropriate model depending on the complexity of the problem and the number of variables involved. Now let's move to goals of linear regression, which helps us understand what exactly we are trying to achieve when we apply linear regression to a dataset. The first goal is to model the relationship between variables. Linear regression helps us establish a mathematical relationship between the dependent variable and one or more independent variables. This relationship is usually represented as a straight line equation. By doing this, we can clearly understand how changes in input variables affect the output. The second goal is to make predictions. Once we have established the relationship, we can use the model to predict future or unknown values. For example, if we know the number of hours a student studies, we can predict their expected marks. This predictive capability is one of the main reasons why linear regression is widely used in real-world applications. The third goal is to minimize the error. In real-world data, predictions are never perfect. So, linear regression aims to find the best possible line that reduces the difference between actual values and predicted values. This is typically done using the least squares method, where we minimize the sum of squared errors. Another important goal is to interpret the impact of variables. Linear regression not only predicts values but also helps us understand how each independent variable contributes to the output. For example, we can determine how much increase in salary is expected for each additional year of experience. This makes the model very useful for decision making and analysis. Finally, linear regression aims to generalize well to new data. A good regression model should not only perform well on the data it was trained on but also give accurate predictions on new, unseen data. This ensures that the model is reliable and practical. So, to summarize, the key goals of linear regression are: to model relationships, to make predictions, to minimize error, to interpret variable influence, and to generalize well. Understanding these goals gives you clarity on why we use linear regression and what we expect from it in practical applications. Now let's move to linear regression visualization, which is where the concept becomes much clearer and more intuitive. When we talk about linear regression, one of the best ways to understand it is through a graph. Typically, we represent the independent variable on the x-axis and the dependent variable on the y-axis. Now imagine we plot all our data points on this graph. For example, if we are analyzing study hours versus marks, each point on the graph represents a student's study hours and their corresponding marks. These points are usually scattered and do not form a perfect straight line. This is where linear regression comes in. We draw a straight line through these data points that best represents the overall trend. This line is called the regression line or line of best fit. The key idea here is that this line should be as close as possible to all the data points. Some points will lie above the line, and some will lie below it. The vertical distance between a data point and the line represents the error or residual. Now, the goal of linear regression is to position this line in such a way that the total error is minimized. In other words, we want a line that best captures the pattern in the data while keeping the differences between actual and predicted values as small as possible. This visualization helps us understand two important things. First, the direction of the relationship, whether it is positive or negative. If the line slopes upward, it indicates a positive relationship, meaning as the input increases, the output also increases. If the line slopes downward, it indicates a negative relationship. Second, the strength of the relationship. If the data points are closely clustered around the line, it means the model fits well. If they are widely scattered, the relationship is weaker. So, visualization not only helps us understand how linear regression works but also gives us insight into how well the model represents the data. In summary, linear regression visualization transforms numerical data into a graphical form, making it easier to interpret relationships, understand trends, and evaluate model performance. Now let's move to simple linear regression, which is the most basic form of linear regression and the foundation for understanding more complex models. In simple linear regression, we work with one independent variable and one dependent variable. The goal is to establish a relationship between these two variables using a straight line. This relationship is expressed using the equation y equals mx plus c. Here, y is the dependent variable, which we want to predict. X is the independent variable. M is the slope of the line, representing how much y changes when x changes. C is the intercept, which is the value of y when x is 0. Now let's understand this with a simple example. Suppose we want to predict a student's marks based on the number of hours they study. Here, study hours become the independent variable, and marks become the dependent variable. If we plot this data, we may observe that as the number of study hours increases, the marks also tend to increase. Simple linear regression helps us draw a straight line that best represents this relationship. The slope m tells us how much the marks are expected to increase for each additional hour of study. For example, if m is 5, it means that for every extra hour of study, the marks increase by 5 units on average. The intercept c gives us the starting point, the predicted marks when study hours are 0. Now, in real-world data, the points will not lie perfectly on a straight line. There will always be some variation. So, the goal of simple linear regression is not to perfectly fit every point, but to find the line that minimizes the overall error. This makes simple linear regression both easy to understand and very powerful for basic prediction tasks. So, in summary, simple linear regression is used when there is one input variable. The relationship is approximately linear, and we want to predict a continuous output. It serves as the building block for more advanced regression techniques. Now let's understand how we actually calculate the parameters of a linear regression model, specifically θ0 and θ1. In simple linear regression, our goal is to find the best possible straight line that fits the data. This line is represented by the equation y predicted equals θ0 plus θ1x. Here, θ1 represents the slope of the line, and θ0 represents the intercept. Now the important question is, how do we determine the values of θ1 and θ0 so that the line best fits the data? To do this, we use a method called the least squares method. The idea behind this method is to minimize the total error between the actual values and the predicted values. Instead of minimizing simple differences, we minimize the sum of squared errors, which ensures that larger errors are penalized more. Let's first focus on θ1, the slope. The formula for θ1 is designed to capture how the independent variable x and the dependent variable y vary together. It uses the average values of x and y, as well as the sum of their products. In simple terms, it measures the strength and direction of the relationship between x and y. If x and y increase together, θ1 will be positive, indicating a positive relationship. If one increases while the other decreases, θ1 will be negative, indicating a negative relationship. Once we calculate θ1, we move on to θ0, the intercept. θ0 is calculated using the mean of y and the mean of x, along with the value of θ1. The purpose of θ0 is to adjust the position of the line so that it best fits the data overall. It ensures that the regression line passes through the central point of the dataset. Now, if we think about it intuitively, θ1 controls the tilt of the line, whether it rises or falls and how steep it is. θ0 controls where the line starts on the y-axis. Together, these two parameters completely define the regression line. Once we have calculated θ0 and θ1, we can substitute them back into the regression equation and use it to predict values for any new input. So, this step is extremely important because it transforms our data into a mathematical model that can make predictions. It is the foundation of how linear regression actually works behind the scenes. Now let's move to multiple linear regression, which is an extension of simple linear regression and is much more applicable to real-world problems. In simple linear regression, we used only one independent variable to predict the output. However, in reality, most outcomes are influenced by multiple factors. This is where multiple linear regression comes into the picture. Multiple linear regression allows us to model the relationship between a dependent variable and two or more independent variables. The equation for multiple linear regression can be written as y equals θ0 plus θ1x1 plus θ2 by 2 and so on up to θkxk. Here, y is the predicted value, θ0 is the intercept, θ1, θ2 up to θn are the coefficients x1, x2, up to xn are the independent variables. Now let's understand this intuitively. Instead of a single input affecting the output, we now consider multiple inputs. For example, if we want to predict the price of a house, it may depend on factors like size, location, number of rooms, age of the property, and so on. Each of these variables contributes to the final prediction. The coefficients, which are theta 1 and theta 2, and so on, tell us how much each variable influences the output. For instance, one variable might have a strong impact, while another might have only a small effect. Multiple linear regression helps us quantify these contributions. Another important point is that the concept of minimizing error still applies here. Just like in simple linear regression, we try to find the best values of these parameters such that the difference between actual and predicted values is minimized. However, since we now have multiple variables, the model becomes more complex. Instead of fitting a line, we are essentially fitting a plane or a hyperplane in higher dimensions. This makes the model more powerful, but it also introduces challenges such as increased computational complexity, risk of overfitting, need for careful feature selection. So, in summary, multiple linear regression uses more than one independent variable, models more realistic scenarios, helps understand the impact of multiple factors, and provides more accurate predictions when used correctly. This makes it one of the most widely used techniques in practical data analysis and machine learning. Now let's understand the concept of the loss function in more detail, as shown on this slide. When we build a regression model, we make predictions using our regression line. However, these predictions are not always exactly equal to the actual values. The difference between the predicted value and the actual value is called the residual or error. Mathematically, this is represented as epsilon equals y predicted minus y. This error tells us how far our prediction is from the true value for each data point. Now, if we want to evaluate the overall performance of the model, we cannot just look at one error, we need to consider all errors together. This is where the loss function comes in. The most commonly used loss function in linear regression is the mean squared error, often abbreviated as MSE. L equals 1 by 2 n sum of y predicted minus y square. Let's understand this step by step. First, for each data point, we calculate the difference between the predicted value and the actual value. Then we square this difference. Squaring is important because it ensures that all errors are positive and also gives more weight to larger errors. After that, we sum up all these squared errors and divide by the total number of data points to get the average error. You might notice the term 1 over 2n in the formula. This is often used for mathematical convenience, especially when we later apply optimization techniques like gradient descent. Now, the goal of our regression model is to find the values of theta 0 and theta 1 such that this loss function is minimized. So, you can think of it like this. The model makes predictions. The loss function measures how wrong those predictions are. And the learning process tries to reduce this error as much as possible. A smaller loss value indicates a better model. In summary, the loss function acts as a feedback mechanism. It guides the model toward better accuracy by continuously measuring and reducing prediction errors. Now let's understand the loss function using this diagram, which gives us a clear visual intuition of what is happening. On this graph, the horizontal axis represents the input variable, denoted as x, and the vertical axis represents the output variable, denoted as y. The red dots you see scattered across the graph represent the actual observed data points. These are the real values from the dataset. Now, the straight line drawn through the graph represents our regression line, which is the model's prediction. This line is defined by the equation y equals to theta 0 plus theta 1x. Here, theta 1 is the slope of the line, and theta 0 is the intercept. Now, focus on any one data point. You will notice two values. The actual value, which is the red dot. The predicted value, which lies on the regression line. The vertical distance between these two is called the error or residual, often denoted as epsilon. This error represents how far off our prediction is from the actual value. Now, if we look at all the data points, each one has its own error. Some points are above the line, some are below, meaning some errors are positive and some are negative. The key idea of the loss function is to measure all these errors together and quantify how good or bad our model is. Instead of simply adding errors, we square them. This ensures that all values become positive and larger errors are penalized more strongly. So, the regression model tries to adjust the slope and intercept, that is, theta 1 and theta 0, in such a way that the total squared error is minimized. Visually, this means we are trying to position the line so that it is as close as possible to all the data points. Another important thing shown in the diagram is the slope, which determines how steep the line is, and the intercept, which determines where the line crosses the y-axis. So, in summary, red points are actual values. The line represents predicted values. The vertical distance is the error. And the goal is to minimize all these errors. This visual representation makes it much easier to understand how the loss function guides the model to find the best possible regression line. Now let's move to the evaluation metrics for linear regression, which help us measure how well our model is performing. So far, we have built a regression model and understood how it makes predictions. But an important question is, how do we know if our model is actually good? This is where evaluation metrics come into the picture. These metrics are based on the errors between actual values and predicted values, so they are also called error-based metrics. Let's go through each of them one by one. The first metric is mean absolute error, or MAE. MAE calculates the average of the absolute differences between actual and predicted values. It is simple and easy to understand. It tells us, on average, how much our predictions are off, without considering the direction of the error. Next, we have mean squared error, or MSE. Here, instead of taking absolute values, we square the errors. This means larger errors are penalized more heavily. Because of this, MSE is very sensitive to outliers. Then we have root mean squared error, or RMSE. RMSE is simply the square root of MSE. The advantage is that it brings the error back to the same unit as the original data, making it easier to interpret. Finally, we have mean absolute percentage error, or MAP. MAP expresses the error as a percentage, which makes it very intuitive. It tells us, on average, how far off our predictions are in percentage terms. Now, how do we interpret these metrics? In all cases, a lower value indicates a better model because it means the predictions are closer to the actual values. Each metric has its own use. MAE is simple and less sensitive to outliers. MSE penalizes large errors more. RMSE is easier to interpret due to same units. MAP is useful when we want percentage-based understanding. So, choosing the right metric depends on the problem and the nature of the data. In summary, evaluation metrics help us quantify model performance and guide us in improving the model for better accuracy. Now let's move to another set of evaluation metrics known as goodness of fit metrics, which help us understand how well our regression model explains the data. The first and most important metric here is R-squared, also known as the coefficient of determination. R-squared measures how much of the variation in the dependent variable is explained by the model. In other words, it tells us how well our regression line fits the data. Here, SS_res represents the sum of squared residuals, which is the error between actual and predicted values. SS_tot represents the total variation in the data, which is the difference between actual values and their mean. If the model explains the data perfectly, SS_res becomes 0, and R-squared becomes 1. This means a perfect fit. If the model does not explain the data well, R-squared will be closer to 0. So, R-squared values range between 0 and 1, closer to 1 means a better model. Closer to 0 means a poor model. Now, let's move to adjusted R-squared, which is an improved version of R-squared. The formula for calculating adjusted R-squared is given in this slide. Why do we need adjusted R-squared? The problem with R-squared is that it always increases when we add more variables to the model, even if those variables are not useful. This can give a false impression that the model is improving. Adjusted R-squared solves this problem by penalizing unnecessary variables. It increases only when a new variable actually improves the model. So, it gives a more realistic measure of model performance, especially in multiple regression. To summarize, R-squared tells us how well the model fits the data. Adjusted R-squared adjusts this value by considering the number of variables. Both help us evaluate how effectively our model explains the variation in the data. These metrics are extremely important when comparing models and selecting the best one for a given problem. Now let's discuss a very important concept in machine learning, overfitting and underfitting. When we build a regression model, our goal is not just to fit the training data, but to perform well on new, unseen data. However, sometimes models fail to achieve this balance, leading to two common problems, underfitting and overfitting. Let's start with underfitting. Underfitting occurs when the model is too simple to capture the underlying pattern in the data. In this case, the model performs poorly not only on new data but also on the training data itself. For example, imagine trying to fit a straight line to data that actually follows a curved pattern. The model will miss important relationships and produce large errors. In simple terms, underfitting means the model has not learned enough. It fails to capture the complexity of the data. Both training error and testing error are high. Now let's move to overfitting. Overfitting occurs when the model becomes too complex and starts memorizing the training data instead of learning the actual pattern. It fits the training data very well, sometimes even perfectly, but performs poorly on new data. For example, if we try to fit a very complex curve that passes through every data point, the model may capture noise and random fluctuations instead of the true relationship. In this case, training error is very low. Testing error is high. The model does not generalize well. So, underfitting is like not learning enough, while overfitting is like learning too much, including noise. The ideal situation is to find a balance between these two. We want a model that captures the true pattern in the data without becoming overly complex. This balance is often referred to as achieving a good bias variance trade-off. In summary, underfitting model too simple. Overfitting model too complex. Ideal model balanced, generalizes well. Understanding this concept is crucial because it directly affects how reliable and accurate your predictive model will be in real-world applications. Now let's look at the applications of regression, which will help you understand why this concept is so important in real-world scenarios. Regression is widely used wherever we need to predict a continuous value or understand relationships between variables. Let's go through some key application areas. First, in business and sales forecasting. Companies use regression to predict future sales based on past data. For example, a company can estimate how much product will be sold next month based on previous trends, seasonal patterns, and marketing efforts. This helps in planning inventory and managing resources efficiently. Next, in real estate. Regression is commonly used to predict house prices. Factors like location, size, number of rooms, and age of the property are used as independent variables to estimate the price. This helps buyers, sellers, and agents make informed decisions. Another important application is in finance. Regression models are used to analyze stock prices, assess risks, and forecast financial trends. For example, predicting how a stock might behave based on historical performance and market indicators. In healthcare, regression plays a crucial role. It is used to predict patient outcomes, recovery time, or disease progression based on medical data such as age, medical history, and treatment plans. This helps doctors in decision-making and improving patient care. In marketing, regression is used to understand customer behavior. For example, companies analyze how advertising spending affects sales. This helps in optimizing marketing strategies and maximizing return on investment. Regression is also used in engineering and science. It helps in modeling relationships between variables, such as pressure and temperature, or speed and fuel consumption. Engineers use regression to design systems and improve performance. Another growing area is environmental studies. Regression is used to predict climate changes, pollution levels, and weather patterns based on historical data. So, across all these domains, the common idea is the same: understand relationships between variables. Use those relationships to make predictions. In summary, regression is a powerful and versatile tool that is used across industries for prediction, analysis, and decision-making. This is why it is considered one of the most essential techniques in data science and machine learning. Now let's discuss the advantages and limitations of regression, which will help you understand when to use regression and when to be cautious. Let's start with the advantages. One of the biggest advantages of regression is that it is simple and easy to understand. Especially linear regression, the concept is straightforward and the results are easy to interpret. We can clearly see how each independent variable affects the dependent variable. Another advantage is that it is computationally efficient. Regression models can be trained quickly, even on large datasets, which makes them very practical for real-world applications. Regression is also highly interpretable. Unlike some complex machine learning models, regression allows us to understand the relationship between variables. For example, we can quantify how much change in output occurs for a unit change in input. It is also widely applicable. Regression can be used in various domains like business, healthcare, finance, and engineering. Any scenario involving prediction of continuous values can benefit from regression. Additionally, regression models are a good baseline model. They are often used as a starting point before moving to more complex models because they provide a clear benchmark for performance. Now let's look at the limitations. One major limitation is that linear regression assumes a linear relationship between variables. If the actual relationship is nonlinear, the model may not perform well unless we use transformations or more advanced techniques. Another limitation is its sensitivity to outliers. A few extreme values can significantly affect the regression line and lead to inaccurate predictions. Regression models also assume that the independent variables are not highly correlated with each other. If there is multicollinearity, it can make the model unstable and difficult to interpret. It also requires careful feature selection. Including irrelevant variables can reduce model performance and lead to overfitting. Finally, regression models can suffer from overfitting or underfitting if not properly tuned, which affects their ability to generalize to new data. So, to summarize, advantages include simplicity, interpretability, efficiency, and wide applicability. Limitations include linear assumptions, sensitivity to outliers, multicollinearity, and risk of poor generalization. Understanding both sides is important so that you can use regression effectively and avoid common pitfalls in real-world applications. Now we come to the end of this lecture. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we have covered. We started by understanding the concept of predictive models and how regression plays a key role in predicting continuous values. We then explored what regression is, the different types of regression, and focused in detail on linear regression. We discussed how regression models are built, how parameters like θ0 and θ1 are calculated, and how the loss function helps in minimizing prediction errors. We also looked at visualization to better understand how regression works, and explored important evaluation metrics such as MSE, RMSE, R-squared, and adjusted R-squared. In addition to that, we understood critical concepts like overfitting and underfitting, and finally explored the real-world applications, advantages, and limitations of regression. The key takeaway from this session is that regression is not just a mathematical concept, but a powerful tool that helps us understand relationships in data and make informed predictions. Thank you for your attention.